This is my journey. Inspired one story at a time, a library of leaders was created. It began as a journey to learn. As time went on, it began to grow. All it needed was a platform, and this podcast was created to listen, to inspire, to share. I am a storyteller, and this is my journey. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. I am your host, Steve Anderson, and today our guest is Ingrid Curtis. She spent 17 years helping build one of the most ambitious digital transformation platforms in enterprise. She then became its CEO, and her first move was to say the whole thing needed to be rebuilt. She has a rare kind of credibility. She didn't just form opinions about why enterprise AI initiatives keep failing. She helped build the infrastructure that's now becoming the bottleneck. And rather than quietly course correct, she's calling it out openly. As CEO of Sparq, that's SPARQ, she's repositioning the company from digital first to data first, and she believes the shift is about to become the defining leadership challenge in enterprise. So, Ingrid, welcome to the program. It's great to have you on today.
Thank you, Steve. Great to be here.
So, give us a little context. I always like to start with that. Tell us where you grew up, some of your early influences, and how you got into the interesting world you're in now.
Great. So grew up in Connecticut in New England. Played basketball from an early age, so I've been competitive much of my life. And I remember thinking, okay, what do I want to do? I kind of grew up in the time of Prodigy and AOL and gateway computers in the beginning of really this new technology wave. And so I just saw huge potential. And I've always had interest in business and interest in the problems that businesses are trying to solve. And so the idea that I could combine those two things and have a career in consulting was super exciting. And so that's what led me to the space in the beginning.
That's great. Well, this is going to be published quite a bit of time after we're talking right now, but the UCLA women's basketball team just won the national championship, so you probably watched that.
I did. I
Hmm.
did. It was hard to see UConn go down twice
Yeah.
as a hometown UConn fan, but the UCLA team was fantastic, and it was just great to
Yeah.
see Lauren Betts and some of the great players on the court. So
So tell us a little bit about your experience. So you're a college basketball player, and you obviously must have played in high school and as a kid as well. So
yeah.
do you still play, or is it that done and gone, and you're on to something else now?
No, I am a washed up athlete. Now I play golf
Okay.
and cycle and other things. But no, I loved the game. It was such a great opportunity to play and coach. It really, I think, defined how I think about leadership and really helped me to think about what kind of a leader I want to be and how did I, help to captain and lead and coach some of the greatest teams that I either played on or led, and what did I learn from those experiences? So it's definitely a seminal memory and something that really I think built who I am today.
What kind of a player were you? What was your position and what was your style?
I was I was a forward center. I was a little more enforcer than I was finesse player.
Okay,
Had to bring the hustle. But I played the paint most of my career and just had a ton of fun with it.
that's great. Well, as a physical therapist myself, a lot of people used to ask me, is basketball a high injury sport? And I would always say no until you turn 35. So it's good that you moved on to other sports that are easier on your body than the hardwoods for sure.
Yeah, no, knees, ankles, degenerative back. I've got it all. So,
Yeah, okay. That's great. So let's talk about Spark a little bit. So you were the COO, as I understand, for a
yeah.
long time, and then you became the CEO president of the company, and
hmm
then you made some real changes. So I'm curious, as when you're sitting there as the COO, and watching what's happening, did you have these ideas all along that you wanted to make major changes when you got your chance, or did it just one day you became the CEO and you say, okay, now we've got to do something different?
No, I have had the opportunity to work at Spark with a great co-founder Technically, we invested in the business for $1, and so we co-founder with a with an asterisk. Um, but over the years, we had grown through investing in sales, investing in how we could expand our reach across our client base. And with the advent of AI and what's been happening in the space over the course of the last few years, I've really had to step back and say, what is that impact to our world, to our business, to the way in which we serve our clients, to the problems that we're solving? And, if we've learned anything along this path of entrepreneurship, it's that big moves matter. And small moves just don't move the needle in a way that's going to drive greater outcomes in the future. And so, I sat with our ELT, our leadership team, probably about a year ago. And we just had a session, and I said, we have this opportunity to build a legacy. And we can look at the legacy that we built over the course of the last, some of those folks in my ELT have been with me for 13, 14, 15 years of this journey. And I think we look at that accomplishments there and we're pleased, but not satisfied. And so as we thought about, we just had this deep conversation about legacy and what did we want to look back on? And we have this opportunity now with so much new technology and ways, you think about the problems that we solve for our clients. There's so many problems that were once impossible, either because they were too expensive, too complex. The business didn't have the kind of gumption to be able to say, okay, we'll go through a 36-month transformation or we'll follow a long-term roadmap. And now we can develop things in such a short amount of time in a way that is a little more living, breathing than these massive one-time transformations. And so as we sat down to think about what we wanted to build here and where we wanted to take the business, I think it was a really cool moment to hear from the team of we want to place big bets. We want to make big moves, and we want to show our clients that this isn't a scary journey. We're here right alongside you to go through this. And our colleagues that, you think about what it's like as a colleague to work in tech prior to the internet, to work in tech prior to cloud, and to be facing this massive transformation. There was an article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, that said many people are choosing to retire rather than learn this new technology. And
Right.
I want us to look at our colleagues and say, no, no, this is the boat that gets you across that river, that's taking our colleagues through this journey, that's guiding our clients through this opportunity, and creating greater outcomes for both stakeholders at the end. And I think my ELT was very supportive, very excited about that potential. And so we spend every week thinking about how we challenge ourselves and are we, placing big enough bets and making big enough moves.
And how long ago was this transition into the CEO president role?
Technically, I took the CEO seat on January 1st, but I've
Okay.
been transitioning with our former CEO, who's now the chairman of our board, over the course of the last year.
So I'm curious how you, as a CEO myself in the past, and taking over from a predecessor that I really liked and admired and respected as well, it sounds like you did. How do you make those big changes and take that when it's kind of like saying, well, we're not doing it your way anymore. We're going to do it this new way. That's a risk, and that's bold because in a way you're kind of saying, we're doing something different. We're going against, not maybe against, but we're going further than what you wanted to take it. So that's not easy. That's not an easy road to take sometimes.
It isn't, although it actually brings me back to a sports analogy. You can't play somebody else's game. You got to play your own game, and that's what
Yeah.
makes you a great athlete. And as a player on a team, I brought something different than the players that came before me that had great outcomes, and I think that's okay, right? Diversity of leadership is really good for an organization, and you think about athletes, like you need different coaches throughout the lifetime. If you always play for the same coach, you only learn one way of doing it, and so I think we're challenging the organization in new ways. But there's always still a little bit of who we are in our heart and how we care for our colleagues and how we believe that investing in our colleagues first will make our clients very successful. So there's still some of those tenets that Monty and I came together and believed in, and we're challenging to a new future. And I think he's been wildly supportive and very excited for our growth.
So, well, how would you say in a, just maybe one or two things, how are you different than Monty?
Yeah. I think where we sit today versus where we were over the course of the last 5, 10, 15 years, a lot of the investment was in how do we get our message out there? How do we get invested in just the sales organization? How do we grow that presence? And delivery will follow. I think I look at it a little bit differently, and I think that where we sit today, that line between software and services is blurring. And that means that we need to be building IP and accelerators and really leading with our delivery team to say, how are we guiding our clients through this next phase of the journey? It isn't just about getting out there and talking to more prospects or clients. It's about honing our craft and thinking about the new way in which we'll develop software, the new way in which we can guide clients to really think about their workflows and how they're injecting AI or using agentic solutions. And so those are things that I think require a different view of investment in the organization and a different approach to how we scale into the future.
So let's say that some of these listeners today are not tech people. So
Sure.
explain to us in layman's term, what is a digital transformation platform? So just explain a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so if you look at our clients and think about the businesses that we serve, many of our clients are they're not just buying Salesforce or SAP or some of these off-the-shelf solutions. Their strategic differentiator is within the systems that run their businesses. And so you can think about take an example of how Federal Express and UPS compete in the market. Well, Federal Express and UPS can't just go buy the same software solutions and then try and deliver packages at the same prices. They have many different ways in which their applications are driving their strategic differentiation. How are they optimizing routes? How are they ensuring that they're tracking packages? What IoT solutions are they using? And how are they taking that data to learn about the tracking of those packages? And so we work for clients who are very much using those applications as strategic differentiators. So when you talk about digital transformation, historically, that was something was built in an older language. It needed to be transformed. We'd help the client to think about the business process that it was guiding, and we'd build new software to support into the future that was, under maintenance and was going to be supported. That language was going to be supported as they go into the future, and that is changing now with AI, right? Where there's huge impacts on how you transform a client's applications. And I think we're challenging our clients to think about those workflows differently. And so there's a business strategy aspect to the work we do today that wasn't always there in just the engineering side of digital transformation.
So let me make sure I get this. So let's say that I'm a company and I'm going to hire you to come in and help me. I
Yeah.
have a bunch of systems and I have a bunch of applications, but I'm probably not using them as efficiently as I could, or they're not interacting as much as they should. So
Yep.
Spark comes in and says, "Okay, let's do this, this, and this to make this work, the flow easier and better, and so on." So is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and first and foremost, we're gonna challenge you to think about your data. And so if your data is siloed in all these applications and it's you're not getting the insights you need to run the business, you're not able to access the data coming out of marketing or the data coming out of your invoicing solution or the data coming out of your CRM, we are going to look at that across that platform and say, all right, how are we bringing all that data together in one place? And allowing the organization to leverage that insight and that data, not just the departments that have those solutions or that data within those solutions. So we would start with your data first.
So when you say you're going to transition my company from digital first to data first,
Mhm.
what does that mean?
That really, if you think about how AI works, and I'll just keep it general, right? AI is hugely capable in taking in massive amounts of information and data and coming to, with the right training and guidance, coming to good insights and analytics. And so to do that, we've always had this saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you're feeding and training AI models with poor data, data that isn't structured, the data that doesn't make sense to that model, you won't get the best results. And so part of what we're urging our clients to do is really think about their data infrastructure and how they're bringing that data into one place so that they can leverage the great work that we're able to apply AI to today.
Yeah, and I can remember as in my past position as CEO of a company, you have all this data and all this information, and it's kind of like, but what do we do with it? It's like, how do we use
Mhm.
it? Okay, we're measuring this, we're measuring that, but then how does that interact with this, and how should we use it? And so, data just by itself, can be intimidating and may not
Yeah.
mean a bunch, but you need to use it in useful ways.
Well, and there's, some of the original, there's some fun stories from the original days of big data and what to do with data. Walmart, I think it was Walmart, had a scenario where they figured out, and this probably took millions and millions and millions of dollars of investment in a data engineering effort. But what they found was that if they put the beer near the diapers, they'd sell more beer.
Yeah.
And, it's insights like that that took
Yeah.
a massive amount of investment back in the day. And now, we're guiding clients to get insights like that with a much smaller footprint of investment. And it's interesting to think about how we can help our clients increase their revenue, or increase their bottom line.
And so, does your company and your engineers in your company actually design software or AI tools from the ground up, or do you just research and use the ones that are out there to make systems more efficient?
Yeah, so we're helping to guide our clients on that kind of build versus buy. And many, we're often recommending tools from Google or Anthropic or other of the large language models
Hmm.
that they can leverage in-house. And then we build on top of those. So we're leveraging those models to create solutions that are driving more effective workflows.
Okay. So, what traditional ways of running a company need to change to get into this new era of AI that we're all talking about and immersed in? So, what are some of the traditional things that need to go bye-bye or we need
Yeah.
to look at in a different way?
Um, I think we have to rethink everything. There's so much in how we even just in how we're thinking about colleagues and their roles and how we're thinking about developing our colleagues. And, our Chief People Officer, Robin Stenzel, and I have been having this conversation around how do we help colleagues on this journey? How do we help them track their progress on this journey to being truly AI native? And some of the, you can use models to guide you. So we can use ChatGPT, we can use Claude to really help us envision what are new ways of tracking that progress. And some of the argument is why job descriptions? Why training programs? Why not a kind of living, breathing understanding of where AI is headed? It'll change in the next few weeks, right? We'll find out that a function that still took humans is now changing within one of the models, and so we're learning to create more of a living, breathing organization than just a let's build a Word document and that's, no one's going to go refer to 2 weeks from now. So that changes the systems, that changes the way in which you think about colleagues, it changes the way in which we think about performance. And so it's just one example of how I think organizations will. Those that will, really thrive are those that are thinking about this kind of living, breathing future.
And so, if you're a small business or mid-sized business and you
Mhm.
don't have an AI component or you don't know how to use it or it's just not part of your day-to-day,
Yep.
I would say that's a huge red flag. Agreed?
100%. And it's funny, we're building a house and we walked that house with a electrician and we were pointing out all the things that we saw, like that light switch needs to move and it you record that conversation. You could video record that conversation. AI can transcribe that. It could build out a quote. It could get you to a proposal without any human work involved. And all of a sudden, that electrician probably didn't, take enough notes. Probably didn't catch everything that we said. But the recording could have, and it could have been transcribed, and it could have automatically entered into their systems. It could have automatically sent a quote over to the general contractor. And next thing you know, that electrician isn't wasting cycles our contractor isn't wasting cycles on, well, you got 90% of what we needed, but you missed 10%. Now we got to go back. And so there's efficiencies in every business that I think business owners either need to lean in and try it themselves, right? Download Claude, get into ChatGPT, start to record your meetings, put those transcriptions in for note taking. It's helpful for people to learn how the tech works. But there's also plenty of consultants that work in the small business SMB space or otherwise that could guide you and come in and help to just rethink some of the things that you've always done, and give you that edge over the next electrician, right? And that applies to all kinds of different industries.
Yeah, it's such a game changer. I mean, just to go back to the old world, way back when I can remember being in board meetings, it might be a day and a half, or, a day long board meeting, and administrative assistant would be sitting there taking notes.
Furiously. Yep.
And then she would have to go back and edit the notes, and then she would have to get the sign off from the CEO. And we were lucky to get those notes, 2 or 3 weeks down the road.
Yep.
And now to think that you can just basically walk back to your office and they're there is
There
a
they
real
are.
game changer for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So when you look at businesses like this, well, first of all, let me ask you this: how many employees do you have in your company?
About 750.
Okay. So are you of the thinking that this business 750, as we go further and further into this AI world and you get more efficient with that and whatever, is this a business that could be run with half that many employees?
I don't look at it that way. We were having this conversation the other day. Jobs will change. So what my QA testers did 6 months a year ago is very different than what they'll be doing 6 months a year from now. But there's that transformation means you think about what a QA tester did. So a quality assurance tester would run alongside developers and they would test the functionality. So they'd log in to the same system the developer was working on and they would click the buttons or follow the process that developer had created. We don't need to do that anymore. There's automation, there's so many ways in which you can test a solution. However, as we're implementing AI inside of solutions, there's now governance that's required, right? We have to ensure that AI has checks and balances along the way to make sure that it's not hallucinating or doing something that isn't in line with what the business was requesting in the first place. And so that job just transforms. The same thinking can now be applied to a different outcome or a different way in which they work. And so will we scale as fast from a headcount perspective? Probably not. Will we shrink or need half the people? That's not our goal. Our goal is there is still plenty of work to be done. There was a great Sequoia Capital article that said for every dollar that you spend in software, you spend $6 in services. And you think about our clients walking along this path and going through this journey, there's a lot of help to be implementing AI solutions and guiding, and there still is an opportunity for us to serve our clients in a big way. So, to me, it's less about headcount. Now, I think you'll see that there are firms out there that are 100,000, 300,000, 700,000. I think you'll find that those firms do shrink from a headcount perspective, but we're also talking about new ways in which we think about work, fixed fee work, outcome-based work. And so while the jobs may change in those large firms, I think, the opportunity is still there to support our clients.
When I think of a company like yours and you just explained how fast things are changing and how 6 months things were different and so on, how do you make sure your people are trained in that? Do you bring in outside people, or do you just know that your people are going to see this and change themselves and progress and increase their knowledge base? Or it seems kind of daunting to think that how do you get the proper training for people to stay on the cutting edge?
Yeah, so we have a pretty strong opinion about this, and we believe that you learn by doing, right? You learn by testing theories. You learn by trying things, and so we have transformed a dedicated team in-house. So consulting firms, we all run with a bench. Our bench is now what's known as the shop. So we kind of have this like hammers and nails, grittier view of how of our culture, and we want people to build things and break things inside of the shop. And so the shop has at any given time many different projects going on. We're building accelerators for our clients. We're building MVPs or demos. We're creating models that are doing code archaeology. So there's a ton of different projects there. And so you can if you're on the bench, you're working in the shop full time. If you're working for a client, you can jump into the shop for just a few hours and each week and learn something new and work on a small application-based opportunity. So, our focus is we want people to test and break. We want them to figure out new solutions and new ways of doing work prior to getting on an opportunity with a client. So the shop is our, test things, break things, and really learn how to use these tools as we move into the future.
I heard you say in a previous interview where you say you need to bring in an R&D approach. So is that what you just described as an R&D approach? So basically you're going to research and learn from that and then develop from there. So when things there's creativity and innovation going on there.
Mhm.
Who decides in your organization that this is way too far out there? We're probably not going to do that. Or who decides that, come on, guys, this is old school. We need to be more innovative. Who decides that? Is that your job? Is that the board's job? I'm interested in how that works.
So I certainly believe that a huge part of my job is setting that vision, right? Of setting that pace. But I have a fantastic CTO, Derek Perry, who's been with me for a long time, and he's a big brain, and he's thinking about all these ways in which we're taking the constantly transforming world of AI and applying it to the problems that we're solving for our clients. And so he's built a team now. We've got a leader of the shop. We've got a product manager, an AI product manager, and they've created kind of an intake process. So all ideas kind of come into this one place, and they're assessing those. Putting them through models. They're challenging those ideas to think more deeply about what is the potential. So we've built out a lightweight framework. That framework transforms every few weeks, and we're spinning things up, realizing we went in the wrong direction, spinning them down and starting again. And so it's it is a constant conversation at the executive level of are we moving fast enough? Are we pushing hard enough? I have a saying that 85% is good enough. Like we can't wait until something's perfect. We have to
For
try things
sure.
and test things and iterate. And I think that's kind of been our focus in how we approach this work.
I think you'd have to have a culture that, we talk about it all the time on the show where, every leader knows that you probably learn more from your mistakes than your successes. But you
Yep.
also have to have a culture that is okay with failure and employees that are willing to take risks and fail and show their colleagues and the leadership that, you know, I had a great idea, but this just bombed. And a lot of
Mhm.
people aren't willing to take that risk. So I would assume you have to build a culture that embraces that.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. Engineers face every day an article that says there will be no more engineers. We don't need humans. Jobs will be, dismissed. And so they show up to work thinking there's feeling this existential threat, right? And some are also concerned that we lose what's great about the creativity and the thoughtfulness of an engineer, right? We just if we boil it down to the zeros and ones of the logic, and we make it about what a model can, generate, then we've lost that creative thinking that engineers believe is so important. And so, the shop has been a great place because we've seen a lot of these light bulbs go on for these engineers as they're testing out these tools and realizing I am still bringing that great ideation, that great thinking to a problem. That problem couldn't have been solved without my thinking about the challenges, how we architect it, and some of the ideation. But then they can get it done in 3 weeks, not 3 months. And so I think, they're starting to have these kind of mind-popping, eye-opening moments of just what we're capable of. And that's exciting to see too.
Do you work with and consult with any healthcare companies?
We do. Some in health tech, some in health payments, yes.
It's interesting because, my background's in healthcare, and I think that if you look at how we've come up with treatments and diagnoses in healthcare.
Hmm.
It's based on very huge, large studies,
Hmm.
which just by the nature of it means that there's a percentage of success, so to speak. But then there's also that percentage that misses that, and so you're getting diagnosed or you're getting treatment based on this large study of many, many, many people, but you individually could be very different. So I think that as AI comes in more and more, is there hope that we can get to what I would call personalized medicine?
Yeah.
Where if you use my DNA and my exact example, I can come up with a treatment plan specific to me and only me, not
Yep.
this huge 10,000 person study.
Yeah. You look at some of the best hospital systems in this country, and we would say Cleveland Clinic, we'd say Mayo Clinic. Those are our care teams that come together, and this doesn't happen at all hospitals. That's doctors from all around your care bringing their ideas and thinking, and they're collaborating on that outcome. That is personalized care. That is personalized solutioning at its core, right? And so now you think about how we apply that to pharmaceuticals, how we apply that to treatment plans. There's a huge opportunity for personalized medicine, and I think it gets fascinating in the oncology space. It gets fascinating because you start to realize how much someone's genetics, DNA, other issues or other symptoms have to do with how we treat someone, and it's very exciting. I just had a full body MRI scan, and they used an AI tool to scan that MRI. Now, a radiologist is going back and looking through all my scans, but
Right.
that's something that just would have been prohibitive. That we would not have had the ability to do that and gain the insight, build the report, get it out to me within. I mean, I got it within a week, the results. And so that starts to get exciting too of how much preventative work can we do.
Yeah, and that's a great example, MRI, because that MRI is going to find stuff.
Yep.
And it may not be symptomatic and it may not be problematic in the future,
Yep.
but it's there. So there's probably a bit of a risk of overtreating something that maybe doesn't need to be treated. So again, it takes, it might take a human intuition to say,
Yep.
yeah, that looks horrible on the MRI, but we don't need to treat it.
Yeah. But also, 10 years from now, if I like there was something about a variant in the circle of Willis, and I was like, okay, I would have never known what that is, why that is, what that means. That only matters if I eventually need brain surgery. Okay, well, I that may never matter, but it also could 10 years from now, and that insight might drive a better outcome for a surgeon. And so there's definitely, how we apply AI matters. How we marry up human intuition with AI matters. That's how we'll get the best outcomes. This is not just we're going to build an army of robots, and therefore you walk into a hospital and there's no need for human care. But I think it could create greater outcomes, which is good all the way around.
I don't know if you're comfortable sharing this, but I'm curious, why would someone at your age decide to do a full body MRI?
Yeah, I'm a I'm a data, kind of health hacker. In general, I wear an Aura ring. I used to wear a Whoop. I love looking at data and thinking about what that means. But I also, my father just had open heart surgery, having found an aneurysm, somewhat not accidentally, but in a uncommon echocardiogram that he had scheduled. And so, I think that's the preventative type of work that if he'd just been having a full body MRI every few years, or there was some more preventative things that were generalized, we were very lucky to catch that. And so my husband and I went and had the scans as well, just to make sure that we're keeping an eye on the preventative side.
So, not to go into any confidentiality issues and not to
Sure.
expose your personal health record or anything like that, but I'm just curious, from that information now, are you
Mhm.
going to do anything different? Or was it more confirmation as you're doing things well?
It confirmed that basketball did in fact destroy my back, and I have degenerative degenerative issues all the way up and down. No, I was very lucky. I It was a good moment though to realize that, that I have a great girlfriend who has ch dealt with health challenges throughout her life, and she says, you can have all kinds of problems, but if you have a health problem, you only have one problem.
Yeah.
And so it's just a good reminder of how much we need to care for ourselves. And, there's so much going on in the world. And, this kind of gets back to your leadership topic in general. We always talk about you got to put your oxygen mask on first on the airplane. And the point is, we all as leaders have to take care of ourselves and make sure that we're in tip-top shape, especially with all the stressors and living through what we're living through now and the war hanging over our heads and all kinds of things with AI and the existential threat to humanity. We got to be healthy to face all of that at once.
We can probably all agree that diversification of opinion and experience will bring a better collective result. In the AI world that is very specific and very technical, how do you build diverse teams in that setting?
Yeah. Um, we have always believed that more diverse teams build better software, and that's been a tenet of our founding since year one. We've seen great success in adding colleagues in all throughout Latin America and great insights and different life experiences. As we think about even the AI models, you can log in and ask Gemini one thing, ask ChatGPT the same thing, and ask Claude the same thing and get three very different responses. But in those responses, you only get one response. So you are losing the diversity of thinking. There's kind of this whole conversation of you'd ask Google a question and you get 4.2 million results. And you could click on all different websites and get all different perspectives. And now with these models, you get one result. So it's even more important that we're thinking about the human creativity, the diversity of experiences, and um, that's life experience, that's age, that's background, that's region. There's so many things that come into diversity. But we're building out a resourcing, an AI resourcing tool. So we want to learn about our colleagues in a much deeper way and feed that into a model and think about where are we diverse in this team? How are we creating new experiences? What are the different resumes that are coming to that work? And so I think there's a lot we have yet to learn about how we can bring diversity to the work we do.
So if I use Claude and
Mhm.
I ask a question and get some information that comes back, should I accept that as this is the way it is, or should I challenge that, or should I question that? How do you look at things like that when you use those tools and information comes back?
Yeah, it depends on the types of question you're asking. So I have trained a model in my voice in Spark in all the strategy work we're doing. I'm feeding it documents of the work that we're what we're showing at the board level, how we're thinking about some of our brand voice, brand messaging, and so that model is highly intelligent of me, the Spark, and how to answer a question. Um, Not so intelligent on other topics, right? And so it hasn't been trained. It's trained generally as models are, but I think we always have to be thoughtful. Models hallucinate, and and we have not figured that out yet. And so thinking of leveraging different models, thinking of using life experience, checking Google, talking to people in a space, it really depends on the question you're asking. But I think we should always have just a healthy skepticism of one result coming back from a model and how we might train that model to be more diverse. Now, there's great ways to do that, right? You can guide a model to be an expert in a space. So if I'm asking an oncology question, I can tell Claude that it is a senior fellow in oncology and it's trained at these locations and like you can lean it in that direction, but you should always have a healthy skepticism and check your work.
So in building Spark, it's growing. You make acquisitions and mergers and so on. So
Mhm.
how much of that is your strategy, and is that happening all the time, or are you pretty set with where you're at now to develop that more diverse opinion?
So we always have an eye on the market. We are, we did three acquisitions in 1 year, and so we took a bit of a breather after completing those three. But I think we're always looking for what others are doing in the space, how are others tackling challenges in the data space or challenges in the AI space. And so we continue to assess companies that are out there. We're also, we're investing. You can think of acquisitions, right? That's an investment in something that you would say, I can't build it that fast, or I can't move the organization in that direction quick enough, or they have insights and capabilities that we don't have. But we're also investing in building our own, right? We're thinking about what valuations have, where valuations are in the market, and what we're capable of building now. And so there's a lot that we're creating that I would say we wouldn't have tackled 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
And when you purchase companies like that and expand in that way, do you do it all internally, cash wise, or are you looking for, do you have investment partners or venture capital or private equity, or how do you
Yeah.
fund that?
Yeah, so we are backed predominantly by Harvest Partners and Bain Capital, but then we also have a really supportive group of other investors who are excited about, those opportunities and work closely with us on what might make sense.
And is your company, I know it's based in the US, but do you work globally as well? Do you work outside the US?
So we have in our history done work for global companies, and so we've sent people to Australia and Ireland, and kind of all around the globe. Most of our clients are U.S. headquartered, or we're working with the U.S. headquarters. So it's fairly typical that many of our companies are predominantly U.S. companies, but with global reach.
Okay, so you have 700, let's see, tell me again how many employees you have?
750.
750 employees. So how
Mhm.
do you stay in front of those employees? How do you connect with them? How do they know who you are? How do they know your vision and your heart? How do you do that?
Multiple ways and never enough. So, I've got a Slack channel called Insights with Ingrid, and I try and post there. But my last post to them was I'm not posting often enough, and I want to share more tidbits. We are I also have kind of roundtables, so I'll bring about 15 colleagues at a time. I do a couple, two to three of those a week, where I'm bringing colleagues into a safe place. Like, let's just talk. Let's talk about what I see the vision is happening, where I think we're headed. I want to hear from those colleagues what they're experiencing. And that's really helpful for me to stay close to the work, to understand what their experiences are like, what their struggles are. And that's simple things to very complicated things, right? And then I think we're really working on, communication in many different ways of how we share what's happening. And, we have this kind of iterative culture. So the shop was demoing each week, and I'm joining those demos and seeing what colleagues are creating. And that, that's important. I think that they see that I value the work that's being done and that I'm giving feedback. And so I use many different platforms, but I always feel like it's never enough.
So do you have a physical place where a lot of these employees are and meet?
Our physical place is online. So
Okay.
our colleagues are throughout, I think we're in 49 of 50 states and
Wow.
seven
Wow.
countries.
Okay.
And that comes from our origin of believing that you didn't need to live on the coast or in Silicon Valley to do this high-end work, that you could live all throughout the country. And we've taken that perspective into Latin America as well. So we hire remotely all throughout Latin America.
So is part of your job to travel? Do you travel to places and meet people in their own neighborhoods?
I have. We definitely have pockets of folks in certain areas, but that's part of the reason that I do these virtual get-togethers because it's just I'd never make it all to visit all of them, and so we focus on how we do that together online.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole new world, right? I mean, well, it's not new. It's been going on for a while, but again, you look at, leadership styles and how you connect with people and how they know who you are and how you show them that you care and all those kind of things. And it's a lot harder to do virtually than it is, face to face. And so We've had all this talk about the hybrid world and the total remote world, and then now a lot of people are saying you got to come back into the office because we're going backwards, and so or back to where we were.
Yep.
It's a dilemma, and I think it's probably it goes back to your R&D thing. You're going to try things that won't work, and you'll learn from that, and you'll try things that do work, and you'll do more of that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we have an office in Atlanta where our headquarters are, and we come together there, and people will fly in for certain events and different things. I wish it would be really fantastic to be able to walk the halls of all 750 in one place. It's just not a reality of our world today. And so, it is harder. It does take more work. There are times where you catch colleagues that are you kind of you can cycle in a vacuum, right? If you're not getting that access and insight in what's happening, you can assume the best or assume the worst. And so it's a personal challenge to ensure that we're continuing to message. My leaders are continuing to message, and we're ensuring that we're wrapping our arms around every colleague, that they understand the vision where we're headed, and we always want to be open to, those dialogues that used to happen at the water cooler, and now have to be far more intentional about.
Yeah. And is your strategy for Spark to continue to grow and get bigger and you're on a growth strategy at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've really honed in on our ideal customer profile, our how we can serve our clients, where we have the right to win, and we think that will allow us to help to solve even more challenges for that group of clients and prospects. And so there's exciting growth ahead.
I'm curious, as you know, whether you call it marketing or growing the business or whatever, do you have to go out and find people and convince them that they need you, or are they contacting you and say, please help us?
No, it's definitely a crowded space. So we have a really strong sales force. They are out in their, meeting with their relationships. Our colleagues are having conversations with our clients. They're introducing us to new prospects. So it's hard work because there's so much noise in the AI space today. Everyone says they're AI native or AI first, and not everyone is. And so really helping clients to see our unique value proposition is a really important part of our growth. And so we have a team that wakes up thinking about that every day.
And what do you do for your, let's call it the executive team, whatever that looks like? What do
Mhm.
you do for leadership training and things like that to help them continue to learn and grow in the leadership space, not just the technical space?
Yeah, I think we're wildly collaborative, so we're coming together and spending time working on our strategy, thinking about the major initiatives that we have once a month. But we have a Slack channel ourselves, right? And we're sharing articles and thoughts and podcasts and some of the latest understanding of what's happening in our space with each other to help each other kind of, continue that curiosity and that growth.
Yeah. So, Ingrid, in anticipation of our discussion today, what haven't I asked you or what haven't we covered that you want to be sure to get in the program today?
It's a great question. Um, there's something I think that's really important, and it kind of came up as we were talking about that electrician and thinking about that business. And so maybe for your listeners, I would say um, there's a rule that I follow, and it was originally came from Kat Cole. She's now the head of AG1, and I think it's even transformed in the world we live in today, and it's called the hot shot rule. And the idea is that you sit in your chair, and if you don't sit in your chair and think, okay, I'm fired, and they hired a hotshot to take my seat, what would they do? You're not asking yourself enough. You're not challenging yourself enough. And I think in the world of AI, it's almost this new version of, Hotshot 2.0. And so I would challenge all of your listeners who are business owners, leaders, to really think about, are you pushing hard enough? Are you placing that big bet? If you were fired and they hired somebody better than you to take your job, what would they do? I think it's just a great way to keep up pace and to be thinking about, those big moves.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Well, at this point in the interview, I always ask my guests the same common question, and that question is, in relation to leadership, what
Mhm.
is a pearl of wisdom that you could leave us with today?
In relation to leadership, there's something. as I think about what leadership is, I'm a big believer that my job is to set the vision and clear the roadblocks. And so I would say that leaders need to be thinking about how they serve their teams, how they serve their organization. It really is an opportunity to help. I feel like I can have an impact on the 750 lives and families and children and beyond. But I have to do a great job, and I have to be thinking about how to build a great place so that my colleagues go home with a smile. And so I would just say that, leadership is about being a great servant leader, and doing what you can to make your little slice of the world a better place.
Yeah, well said. Well, Ingrid, this has been a pleasure. It's great to talk to you. I learned a lot. This is definitely cutting edge stuff. I would also say, if I can be so bold as to give you my observation, is that you do have a real way, even through a screen, of coming across very warm and very dedicated and knowledgeable. So,
Well,
whatever you're
thank you.
doing, with your style and trying to get to all these people virtually most of the time. I think you have a good shot at doing that because it comes across well. So, um,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I very much appreciate that.
well, thanks for being a guest today. It sounds like you're doing exciting things, and we'll be watching to see what Spark continues to do. And best of luck to you going forward.
Awesome. And I would be remiss if I didn't say it's www.teamspark.com. Come check us out.
For sure, for sure. Okay, well, take care. Have a good rest of your day, and maybe we'll run into each other down the road one of these days.
Love it. Thank you, Steve.
Take care. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. To listen to all my interviews, subscribe to Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and many other popular podcast platforms. Some of these interviews are on video, and you can search YouTube for Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson. You can also access the entire library of interviews on my website, orange.coaching.com, and that is orangetheword.coaching.com, and go to the Media Center and click on Podcasts or Video Gallery. You can also enter the website from pilpodcast.com.